Transformative change is difficult, but it can also be a powerful catalyst for growth and innovation. My name is Michael Carter, and I am the President and Managing Partner of Level5, and you are listening to the Opportunity Unleashed podcast. Each episode, I get to speak with an inspiring business leader who has successfully championed transformative change within their organization, and or have had to navigate it within the market they play in. Regardless of the challenge, they have demonstrated incredible leadership throughout the journey. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Kathy Henderson, Chief Executive and President of Hockey Canada. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today and be a part of the podcast.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's a thrill to be here.
Excellent. So dive right in. You've been at Hockey Canada for just over a year now. Goes without saying you inherited a lot when you took on the role. What's impressed you the most, excited you the most along your journey and what you've learned over the last year and a bit?
There's a few things that have maybe excited me the most is, I think first and foremost, it's a privilege to work in a job that is so important to so many Canadians. And what I'm hearing from Canadians is they love hockey and they want it to be better. And that's a space that I like to work in as well, because listening to what my fellow countrymen tell me and what they want to work with me on has been most impressive, because I think people are quite articulate about what they'd like to see. And it starts to be able to help us have a path as to where we want to go. I've also been really happy to work not just with fellow Canadians, but specifically the staff that I work with that are there, who are very, very committed to delivering great hockey. And along with those staff, I also add our members. So our members are the people who work in the provinces and territories that deliver hockey at the local level, and just their level of engagement and their hope for the future has been very inspiring to work with.
That's great. And you kind of sparked a question for me that I was going to get to anyway. That was, I felt when you take this role, it's not just a hockey role.
No.
You kind of have you have the weight of a nation almost on your shoulders. You represent a lot of pride in our country. Yeah. And this idea that you're kind of, it's part of our DNA. It's part of a society of who we are as Canadians. So how does that kind of impact your thinking around how you approach your job, how you approach the organization, knowing that it's so much more than just the content of hockey?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it's, we're not producing widgets here.
No.
What we are doing really, to me, is much more mission driven. Canadians for a couple of centuries have been very, very proud of their hockey heritage, mm-hmm. and they have a lot to be proud of. And it means a lot. And I think what Canadians, what Hockey Canada has become is, you have to stand up and be able to say, we're almost the public trust for hockey. And when you erode that trust, that's an issue. Mm-hmm. So there is some repair that has to go on. But I think, the other part is what Canadians are asking us for right now isn't the production of more hockey players. It's to stay in a context of a modern Canada. And what we want Canada to represent, both at home and on the world stage, we also want hockey to reflect that as well. And so it's more than just saying, let's make sure that everyone has a good time on the ice. Mm-hmm. It says, how do we stand up and be counted as a hockey nation and make sure that our hockey product, I guess, if you will, but I think importantly, culture and the people that it produces also reflect those values.
So it kind of represents us as a nation, even though they're the ones in the spotlight when you're dealing with world events, but it goes so far down to the grassroots level. It's just a reflection of whether we play hockey or not, it's a reflection of who we are as Canadians.
It's true. And if you take a look at data, which I do look at a lot of data, there's a lot of people out there playing hockey. Some of it is what we call sanctioned, or it's registered hockey. So there's really a lot of them out there, and it's growing. But there's all of us that, have played or do play ball hockey and shinny and mm-hmm. road hockey and beer league hockey, coffee hockey, all of those things. We get involved in hockey pools. We talk about hockey, and 80% of us are self-identify as fans. Yep. So 80% of Canadians, at 40 million people, there's over 30 million of us that are saying, I'm a big fan. Yep.
Well, funny, I put my wife in that category where she never played hockey. She can skate, but she remembers where she was when, golden goal or what have you. So when there's a world event on, and even sometimes for the Maple Leafs, she'll watch and she's excited to participate, even though she doesn't play. Yeah. So she still identifies with hockey and she understands what it means.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, not that we get into a bunch of personal anecdotes, but some of the best memories of my life, I think I share with most Canadians.
Yeah.
Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and, a family friend renting, the top of a local restaurant down in the beach area of Toronto to go and watch the 2014 Olympics was an absolutely incredible moment for all of us. I'll remember that. But I also remember being in Miss Pedry's grade 2 class at Corpus Christi School in Thunder Bay in the basement watching the 72 series. We all have those and we can share them and talk about them. It's something that really pulls us together.
Yeah. No, that's special. You mentioned your staff earlier. And so we're obviously fortunate enough to have spent some time working with you and your team. And I can honestly say I've never worked with a more engaged and passionate leadership team. Very well-informed opinions, which can make it challenging for a leader at times as well, right? And as you think about your vision of where you're trying to take the organization and the sport of hockey, how do you build alignment and commitment amongst a team that, has a lot of institutional knowledge, I think you're all clearly marching towards the same goal, but how to get there, people have different opinions on it and so forth, right? So how do you as a leader help build that alignment and commitment to where you're trying to take the organization?
Well, really good question. I think it is sort of the existential question of a leader is how do you actually do that? There's a few things I think, that I can unpack there a little bit. You're right. I mean, it's a very skilled, very knowledgeable staff. And I think it's really important to recognize that and to allow them to have voice in where it is that we're going. I think we all understand what the goals are. We have a lot of different opinions on how to get there. I think the second part is to bring in some outside voices as well. So level 5 being one of them is that's a facilitation process that I think helps us get our voices on the table in a way that you can look at them objectively, what it is that we're saying, where we want to go. But I also think you need the addition of the people. We're here to serve people. So you need to have their voices on the table about what do they actually need and want. And I think when we start to frame it that way, how we get there, becomes quite a bit more clear to us, because how we get there needs to serve people, reflect our values, and help achieve goals. And I think once you elevate the conversation to that, who are we serving? What are our values? How are we going to get there? I think that's where you start to get the alignment.
Yeah, and I like your comment too. It made me think about, looking outside the organization for support as well. And we'll get to it in a second. But things like beyond the boards and some of the other external voices you're bringing in, new board members, et cetera, with coming from different walks of life, different experiences in hockey, out of hockey, that can contribute in different ways to help drive that journey, if you will, which is pretty exciting.
It is. And I think it's really an important part of the process as you start to reimagine what your organization is and can be. You really have to go back to who are you serving and make sure that those people are reflected in the conversations that you're having. So external voices, they're external to, I guess, people that we, write paychecks to, but they're part of the team.
Yeah. And you talk about serving your audience, right? You have a variety of different stakeholders, but it really is taking a customer-centric view of how it's outside in versus kind of focused on how it's always been done and building from the inside out.
Yeah.
Very
exactly.
cool. Again, you touched on it earlier about how important your member organizations are, right? It's. I look at your business model, and one of the most challenging things you deal with is that you don't control the delivery of the product on the ice at the grassroots level. And you can build all the most wonderful strategy on the planet, but how to execute that becomes a little bit more interesting in your world. So, at level 5, we talk a lot about strategies that stick. And building alignment, getting commitment. You mentioned data and the rigor that goes into building a great strategy, but bringing it to life is another story. So in your unique operating model, how do you do that with the member organizations? How do you bring your strategies to life, or how do you think you're going to be able to, moving forward, bring your strategy to life?
Yeah. Well, I think, the first is, the members are not there to bring Hockey Canada's strategy to life. The members are there to partner with us to bring a hockey strategy to life. And if we don't look at the members as partners in that, I think you're right. I mean, it's an almost impossible model. It is, there's probably elements of things that the members and Hockey Canada need to have conversations about it. And I would call those minimum standards or
Mhm.
quality control, those sort of things. And those are things from a national and a regional level we need to make sure that we absolutely agree on. And that's having proper coaching, safe environments, kind of rules about the field of play and how that's managed so that every kid can reach
Mhm.
their own potential when they step up the ice, and whether they're going to be the next Connor Bedard or Marie Poulain, or they just want to play hockey or coach it for the rest of their life. We've got to be thinking through that with the members, but the members themselves are also quite unique, and so we've got small members who are highly community based, and then we have members who there's significant other leagues that exist in their ecosystem that they have to constantly be working with, right? So that would be, if you just take a look at Ontario, there's a number of there's a number of men's and women's professional hockey teams. There's the Ontario Hockey League, there's the CJHL, there's our programs. There's a very organized Greater Toronto Hockey League in the area, with 40,000 kids playing. So it's quite a complicated system.
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to make sure that we understand what everyone needs from the system and pulls out of the system, but also what are they contributing to the system. And if you take that and you multiply it by 13 members plus one, that's Hockey Canada, plus an international federation, you can see this isn't a job for the faint of heart to try and figure this out.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and I know engagement's also been important to your process, right? It's not something that you're kind of developing internally and pushing down. What I've appreciated is how important the members are in terms of, back to your idea of like getting others to speak up, right? And listening to what the needs and wants are. And how can they be a part of even developing the Hockey Canada strategy, let alone partnering with them to go execute it. But I think that's been an important part of the puzzle as well, as that level of engagement that you have with members to help build.
For sure. For sure it is. I mean, at the end of the day, the hockey that happens on the ice is being delivered, in local communities, at local rinks.
Right.
Hockey Canada, outside of our national teams, mostly just develops policy, products, and services. And it's the gong, in the wind if you are not listening to what it is that the people on the ice actually need.
No, fair enough. I mentioned earlier Beyond the Boards.
Yeah.
Just finished the second annual. Curious to the extent you can share, because I know it's a pretty confidential environment, if you will, when you're there. What were the big takeaways for you? What were any surprises, any ahas, things that you want to make sure you embrace or your organization embraces leaving that? What did you learn there?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's not a huge secret what it is that we're trying to do. So I'll talk about the first and the second one. Beyond the Boards is really an opportunity for us with experts, people with lived experience and subject matter expertise who've studied it, who have learned it, to explore in a collaborative environment the things that we know need to be addressed within the hockey culture. So part of it is it's very much for Hockey Canada, and the hockey system is to learn from others, and that's a big part of it. The very first one took place my very first week.
I remember.
Yeah, I walked into that one.
Welcome to Hockey Canada.
Yes, and just stepped into that, and it was led by a lot of the work that Dr. Teresa Fowler did that looked at the root causes of toxic masculinity that happen in sport, and really, where does it happen? The idea isn't to walk out with a work plan, because there's a lot of different stakeholders who have different influences on the system. The idea is really to try and understand as much as you can about the issue. So let me, if you indulge
Go
me,
for it.
Coming out of that, a couple of things that I really wanted to learn more about is I started to look at what we call our maltreatment data that we collect and we publish, and we can see that there is pockets or concentrations of where we see higher levels of maltreatment, and it does tend to be in younger men that are playing in the elite areas of hockey. And so my question was, why? Why is it concentrated in there? What is going on? And I think, not just why is, and are we doing anything to contribute to that? Like, what is it that the hockey system or the hockey systems in Canada are doing to contribute to that? So we have a couple of studies that are going on right now in cooperation with teams and leagues and places that young men are playing to understand what are the sort of cultural markers in those teams. And then secondly, What are the effects of the hockey system on the character and social and emotional development of young men? And, it's an important one for me too, because we've just finished a literature search, and, I'm certainly not an academic in this area, but, you can see that this is, that there's reckless behavior that happens at a certain age with young men. And they often have...
And that's not a hockey thing.
It's not
that's
a hockey
just
thing. No,
reality.
it's reality. It happens in high schools, and it happens on, other sports teams. I won't name sports because it happens, but there seems to be an age range where, again, I look at studies and literature reviews and things right now, and we can see that, there is a period in many young men's life where they're a bit more reckless, they're testing more boundaries, they're pushing a little harder, and it seems to be, a fairly normal part of their development, but it needs support, and it needs checking, and it needs supervision. And what we want to make sure is, as young men are moving through our hockey system, is that we've got the things in place that they need so that character development happens in a really, really healthy way. So those are the sorts of things. That's the first Be on the Boards. In this particular one, when we go next level down, what we see in our maltreatment data is on ice issues, and I would call them maltreatment issues around inclusion that are based in gender. So this was an opportunity for us to bring in people from all over the place and have a number of keynote speakers and people that spoke with lived experience to talk about gender-based violence, about misogyny, about homophobia and transphobia. And the whole notion of that was to bring in people that really understand that space and say, it doesn't belong in our dressing rooms. It doesn't belong on the ice. What is causing it? And why are, again, young men reverting to those slurs and that sort of aggression with one another? Where is it coming from? And what is it, ultimately that we can do to help? So we're just unpacking that right now. And that was 2 days of listening to unbelievable panels, doing workshops, having Mark Tewksbury was our keynote speaker at night, and Norman Hector from New Brunswick was our keynote speaker in the morning. And both of them were, it was just an honor to have them in the room, and they were just so insightful and thoughtful. Both of them experts, but also both of them have some lived experience.
Lived experiences,
yeah.
I've heard Mark speak before, and it's just such a powerful story. Like his stories and how he brings it to life is just, it resonates so well.
I think so, and just on him, I think what I found so incredible, and I think a lot of people found, and the same with Norman, was their warmth and their humanity, willing to tell stories that had been hurtful and given exclusion to them, and willing to come back and say, I'm here to help, but also, they have incredible strength, and there's just this really, really incredible human being behind there that everyone just responds to.
You get caught up in it. I mean, and it's just their openness and sharing, right? The vulnerability that they're willing to display, which is helpful for sure.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to be sitting here with you 5 years from now. What are you hoping you're talking to me about then? Like, what defines success for hockey in Canada or Hockey Canada? And those two are different things, but they're wrapped together.
Yeah.
Where would you like to be in 5 years? Where would you like the organization to be in 5 years? What are you shouting from the mountaintop about all the good that's come out of this work and this effort that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, love to shout from a mountaintop. It means I'm traveling somewhere, so that's always good. Let's start off with, I think Canadians still want us to win lots of gold medals. I want to make sure that we continue to deliver the most exciting hockey product for our men's juniors, our women's juniors, and our para ice hockey teams. I want to make sure, and I say ice hockey because that's the way the International Federation calls it. So, everything that we do at Hockey Canada, also we want to make sure that we're showing the absolute best hockey that you can see. But beyond that, I'd love to see a sport that continues to grow. So last year we returned to our pre-pandemic numbers. We've just published a women's paper, which is a huge platform. And what we can see is there's an incredible pent-up demand for women who want to play and haven't been able to find either the space, the coaching, or the ice time. And we want to change that, which takes absolutely nothing away from growing the men's game,
Yeah.
which also grew.
It's additive, right?
It's additive.
Yeah.
I think we've put something together called the Path Forward, which is really, it's an inclusion strategy. So it looks at new Canadians, people who aren't exposed to, haven't been exposed to hockey, maybe early in their life, and helps find a pathway for them to be able to play and play at the level and the rate that they want. I also think, inclusion goes really beyond, I think, just looking at new Canadians. I mean, we have people that want to play adaptive hockey. And I think we've done a terrific job at para hockey, which a lot of people would know as sled hockey. There's lots of other people that maybe have a physical or a mental or an emotional impairment, a neurological impairment, that want to play hockey. And what we have to do is figure out ways to get them onto the ice and enjoying it the same way all Canadians want to enjoy hockey. So I think a sport that's growing, that every Canadian that wants to play, there's a place for them to play and to play safely. That to me would feel really good if we were able to get there 5 years from now.
Sounds simple.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a great place to wrap it up. And I know, having had the benefit of working with you for a while, I'm excited about not just the work you're doing today, but what the opportunity in front of you is and the potential of where you can take this organization. Like I said, I think you've got an incredible team that's helping you get there, but it's just, the momentum you have is amazing. And I think there's a lot of opportunity and upside to get you to where you're trying to get to over the next few years. So I'm excited to see what the future holds. So thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. And
invite me back in 5 years and we'll
I
have
will.
this conversation.
We should book it into the calendars now. Thank
exactly.
you.
I'll do dinner then.
They're perfect. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You've been listening to Opportunity Unleashed, a Level 5 podcast where I profile inspiring leaders who have successfully navigated transformative change in their careers and/or businesses. Our goal is to share great stories and hopefully leave you with a few pearls of wisdom that you can learn from. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to check back soon for our next interview.